Oh man, that's powerful. All right, let's do it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Remind podcast. My name's David Masterton, and I'm joined by Dr. Ashleigh Moreland with amazing hair today, Ash. I've got to say, very shiny, very it is on point. How are you today?
Fresh. I think I remember last episode I was saying, I don't know, maybe it was we were talking off air. I was saying how people would compliment my hair and I had set the bar really low. Thanks, Dave.
Mm.
I washed it.
Well, glad we got that out of the way. Now, today's episode is going to be I don't know, it's going to remind me of what my kids say to me a lot. It's not fair.
It's not fair. I shouldn't have to.
Oh, I shouldn't have to. That's right.
Yeah.
Do I have to? It's all like, well, yeah, you do. But I don't want to. Yeah, I know. We still have to do it. So,
Yeah.
but it's been coming off the back of just like a lot of things happening, maybe, especially, for you and I and in our close circle of friends and family and other people we've been speaking to. And it's just one of those things where it just, I shouldn't have to. I shouldn't have to be doing it. I think it's almost like a symptom of people at the end of their tether.
Yeah. I shouldn't have to ask for help. I shouldn't have to do this all by myself. I shouldn't have to carry their load or whatever it might be, whether it's at home, in the workplace. Whereas that I shouldn't have to energy. And you can feel there's a real energy behind it, isn't it? It's like that real, I shouldn't have to.
Well, it's just, it's like, it's almost like it's not fair.
Yeah.
And so if I have to
There's real
talk about
injustice.
William, my 8-year-old boy, he's going through a bit of a stage at the moment where he's starting to grasp the concept of being an adult. Dad, my body, my choices. Okay, fair enough. And especially when his grandmother gave him a decent amount of money, which I allowed him to spend, and the things that he's bought with that money, Dad, they're mine. You can't tell me like that they're mine. Like his concept of if you buy it, okay, then fair enough, you can control it. But these things that I've bought,
Yeah.
you can't control that. And it's like, and just so happens those things that he's bought is a PlayStation.
Okay.
And so the thing that he loves the most at the moment, object-wise, would be the PlayStation.
Yeah.
And the thing he loves to play on that PlayStation is games that he just loves to continually play, and he's really drawn into it because, boy, the makers of these games are really good. So, the sense of, well, for him is trying to grasp the concept of, okay, I shouldn't have to listen to you around stuff that I've purchased. Or I want to have more control over my body and my decision making, so I shouldn't have to listen to you. However, he's also, as he's starting these concepts, he is not necessarily completely understanding that for him to be completely autonomous, there comes with responsibilities and accountabilities as an adult. And so, but to sort of say to him, well, this is what it all means, it goes straight over his head. So I've been talking to him about, all right, mate, well, if I can't tell you what to do around your things that you've purchased and you want to be more of an adult, great. You go to your house where you can control all of your decisions and all your money and all of your things, and I'll come and see you tomorrow. How's that? We'll have a great time. Well, I don't have a house. Oh, why is that? Well, I don't have enough money. Well, okay, so why don't you stay here with me until then? Okay. And then we end up going down this whole thing of, okay, well, look, there are certain things, because if you really want to play this out where you control your stuff and I only now control the stuff that I own, is these the rules you want to play by? Yep. Okay. Well, then you didn't buy the bed, you didn't buy the clothes, you didn't buy the room, you haven't bought the house, you haven't bought your food, you haven't bought the washing detergent, you haven't bought. Do I need to go on? And so he's just, it's we're slowly getting there. And look, testing my patience is, um, I'd say, an under exaggeration at the moment. But we are persisting, both of us, at trying to understand a little bit more, and I'm giving him a little bit more free reign, but also giving him, like yesterday, he came home and he said he wanted to jump on and play the game. I said, okay, but you need to do 3 things tonight. You need to have a shower, you need to get your clothes ready for tomorrow, and I want you to clean your room. So as long as you sort all of that out, do what you like. And he goes, do
Yeah.
I have to do it straight away? I go, no, you for tonight, you can decide how you do it.
Yeah.
As long as you do it.
And do you have,
Okay.
like, a cut-off time or something when that
Bedtime.
yeah.
I gave him free reign for last night.
Yeah.
He got 1 out of the 3 done. And so this morning, I spoke to him because I said, okay, let's get ready. I go, why are you in long pants for school and long top and a jacket? Like he's almost wearing the winter uniform, the sports. And he goes, I want to. I go, mate, it is hot outside. He goes, I can't find anything else. I go, so that means you didn't actually get your clothes ready for today. No, I didn't. I said, go find your stuff. Go do it now. A bit more authoritative than that because, I was trying to drive home a message. And then I said to him, I gave you 3 things to do last night. I looked in his room and I go, and you've done one of them. Give him credit. He had a shower.
Yeah.
And I said, this is why, yes, you want to be treated like an adult, but an adult has to still get these things done. But a child doesn't, but they need to be told. So you now need to decide which one you want to be. And congratulations, you've won no technology for this afternoon when you get home from school. Because we're going to be doing all of that stuff that you said you're going to do. We're going to do it tonight. And so from
How did
his
he respond to that? Was he understanding and like,
he
"Yeah,
he
okay, that's fair."
he was understanding this morning, right? Because I think he was a bit embarrassed because I said to him, "Okay, you do it. You do the things that I've asked you to do when you need to because they're reasonable things to do. But if you don't do it, then like he was reasonable. How he's going to be when I pick him up this afternoon, because we're sort of recording this about midday, that's going to be different. I think if I had to guess, and I can report back later on, but if I had to guess, he'll ask the question, can I have technology? And I'll say no. And he'll go, please, maybe just for 5 minutes, 10 minutes. No. Come on, Dad. I promise I'll do it next time. Like there'll be something like that.
The bargaining.
Um, yeah. And then maybe, I don't know. I think because I've got other things planned anyway, we're going to be, once he's finished cleaning his room, we've got some other new things we're going to put in his room, set up a new desk and stuff like that. When we can do that stuff together, he's really good. Like we were moving stuff from my dad's place that we're going into his room, and we spent a couple of hours moving stuff and from dad's place into the car, and he was great. He loved the physical movement. He loved really
Yeah.
being involved and doing all of that. So when he's engaged in more of those things, he's better. But it just comes back to I shouldn't have to. And this is, I'm looking at someone who's going back to I shouldn't have to when he's starting to at first grasp the concept of I shouldn't have to be listening to you.
Yeah.
You shouldn't, I need to make these decisions myself. Now, fast forward, and now we're teenagers and now we're in relationships, and probably I'm going to say relationships especially, like the judgments, the desires around mind reading is phenomenal. Now, don't get me wrong. No one ever feels so held, so visible, so appreciated, or so loved when someone anticipates their needs and nails it
Yeah.
with no words being said.
Mm.
So I get it. If you can do that, and it's like that's a hole in one on the most complex, golfing green or whatever. I don't golf, but now to expect that the only way you're going to feel loved in a relationship, if that happens constantly, oh,
Yeah. Isn't it's crazy, isn't it? And I'm standing here kind of giggling a little bit because it's like you've been in my house. You set up cameras here, didn't you?
yeah, yeah,
So we've had a bit of a season with our eldest, our 10-year-old,
mm-hmm,
who is obsessed with Roblox. He loves playing Roblox games.
mm-hmm,
Um, we historically had a very, very strict no screens Monday to Friday rule.
mm-hmm.
And that was purely to support his brain because his, I guess, concentration, symptoms of ADHD, behavioral regulation, sleep, everything else was better when his brain wasn't flooded with glutamate every single day because of screen exposure.
Now the glutamate, is that what's being created when you're being
Well,
stimulated from everything the
yeah.
games
Yeah,
do?
so
Okay.
glutamate is the main neurotransmitter behind basically all seizure activity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's excitatory. It's an excitatory
Gotcha.
neurotransmitter. So when we are overdosing with excitatory neurotransmitters, you can imagine the flow-on effect of that behaviorally in sleep, in emotion, like impulse control and all those kinds of things. So in particular with an underdeveloped brain, and he's still only 10, so this is absolutely, he still has an underdeveloped brain. Glutamate can be, their brain can be really sensitive. So I have always been really upfront. My kids know that I'm a
Mm.
neuroscientist. They've always had more understanding of the brain and the nervous system than the average person. And I have really honest conversations with them about the development of their brain and about things that they're exposed to and all these kinds of things. So when I had that rule of no screens Monday to Friday, my kids were pretty accepting of it because they knew that it was because of the impact on their brain. And even on the
Mm.
weekend, we would limit small screens but watch big screens because the smaller it is and the closer it is to you, the greater the glutamate production.
Gotcha.
So if you're on a big screen and you're sitting far away, it alters the function of the eyes. So anyway,
So,
um,
so marathon watching Star Wars in a cinema for 3 days straight's okay. That's what you're saying, as long as you're not in
uh,
the front row.
this is not professional advice. So what we had, well, there were two things that came to mind. So the first is I was laughing because of the recent experiences we've been having with iPad because he
Mm.
started doing really well. And this is what happens. Like his brain is developing, which means it is able to cope with higher doses of neurochemicals and higher doses of things simply because his body is bigger and his brain is developing.
Mm.
So we started allowing some screen time during the week, but everything had to be done first.
Yeah.
So, yep, he had similar jobs. Um, Anyways, he was amazing with that, and we were on a really good run. But the regularity of it kind of formed a little bit of a prediction addiction. And what I mean by that is he just became expectant that he would get it. And what that meant is that that expectancy then played out in an urgency to have it. Really addictive behaviors.
Okay. So, like, he would get everything done, and then go, "I need this now," and you're like, "Well, hang on.
Mhm.
There's
But
other
not
there's
only
other
that,
things."
he was starting to wake really early in the morning,
Right.
and then get all his stuff done, and it's like, 5:30 in the morning and everyone else is still asleep, but he was waking so much earlier just so that he could get on his device and, like,
Mm.
all this stuff. So, I had put a boundary in place around that, and on a number of occasions, he was bargaining. He was doing the bargaining thing. I just need to do one thing, or I just need to trade this, or I just need to do this. It'll only
Mhm.
take 10 minutes, mum. I promise I won't play. I'll just do this one thing. And a couple of times he had snuck his iPad when he wasn't meant to. And I don't have too much of an issue with managing the screen time thing because we've always had open conversations around that. But
Mm.
what I absolutely had to draw a firm boundary on is the deceiving and lying.
Yep.
And so there was one morning when I had said to him, "I'm going to Pilates, so you can have your 1 hour of iPad time when I'm at Pilates," and he was in agreement with that. And by the time I came out of my room, I put my hand on top of the iPad and it was hot. And I said to him, "Is it possible that you've already had your hour of iPad today?" And he said, "Yes," and he owned up to it and all that. So
Mm.
then we went into this, okay, well, this is a privilege and not a right,
Mm.
and you have breached my trust, and that's gonna take some time to get back, and really, really tricky conversations. He was devastated, and he literally went through withdrawals from not having access to the screens that he had become so predicted addicted to.
Mm.
Anyway, so that was the first thing. The second thing I was laughing about is exactly what you just spoke about in terms of, oh, great, awesome. Well, you go to your house and I'll come and visit.
Mm.
And it reminded me of when Elijah, we started this thing called team time.
Yep.
And team time was, I was overwhelmed trying to do everything by myself, but I realized my kids were actually getting older. They're more capable of helping in more ways now, and I didn't have to do it all by myself. So
Mm.
I started implementing team time, which was basically we'd set a timer for 20 minutes and everyone would contribute for 20 minutes doing whatever needed to be done. If it was cleaning up the table, if it was putting toys away, if it was folding washing, whatever it was in that 20 minutes, it was team time. And one night I was in the kitchen and I was cooking or cleaning up or something, and he said, "I shouldn't have to clean up this
Ah.
mess. I didn't make this mess. It's not my mess.
Oh, yep.
It's not fair."
Ooh.
All
Yeah.
those same sentiments. And I did the same thing. I stayed completely calm and I said, "Oh, sweetheart, okay, I get it. I get that feels unfair. Well, as soon as I'm finished cooking my dinner, how about I let you know once the kitchen's available and then you can come and cook your dinner?" And he just looked at me and went, "What? I can't
Mm.
cook my dinner." And I said, "Oh, sweetheart, I'm sorry, I'm confused because
Oh.
I thought we were a family and a family contributes and we do things with and support each other. So help me understand this. Do you want to contribute to our family as a team member? In which case, I'm more than happy to continue cooking your dinner and cleaning your clothes and doing all that stuff. But if you would rather just take care of yourself, then I will support that too. You just let me know which one you would prefer to do."
Mm.
And it was such an eye-opening moment for him to go, "Oh, yeah. Like, wow. If I really had to do all my own stuff
Everything. Yep.
on my own, that would be really hard, and there's so much that other people do for me that I take for granted."
Mm.
And it was a really cool moment because, again, I feel like we talk a lot about those pivotal moments where things shift, because his whole understanding shifted in that moment. And I feel like the same thing probably happened with you with, and I wasn't being nasty, I wasn't being angry, I wasn't being condescending. It was genuinely just a conversation, and that conversation activated something in his mind that went, "Oh, yeah, it's not my mess,
Mm.
but I can contribute because
Yeah,
we're a
or just hang
family."
on, I've got something to lose now, as opposed to I'll only clean up my mess, but everyone else
It's a
can do.
transaction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I gotta say, when I was dealing with Will, I felt calm-ish, but I also felt activated because there's still that sort of that relic of you ungrateful little, you know, and you're trying to play it calm and you're trying to let them, express their feelings, but at some point you're also there going, "Will you just wake up?" Like, I don't do everything for you. Like, am I your slave? Do
But
you
isn't that
do you
yeah.
appreciate me? Do
Yep.
you, what do you do? Like,
Yep.
when I did this when I was a kid, I was just told to shut up and do it or whatever.
Yep.
I didn't have someone being patient
100%. And
saying these things, but they're not aware.
isn't that interesting? Because children learn regardless of how we teach them. It's just
Mm,
whether or not they're traumatized by the way that they learn, right? Or
yeah.
whether it's life-giving or life-taking, or whether it
Or
supports our nurtured, safe connection or compromises it.
well, what you said many episodes ago was the connection or correction without connection
Leads
equals
to trauma.
trauma. So you can be connected to your kid properly, but like you can still be connected to them and discipline them.
Yes,
And
yes.
so
And
that's kind of, I mean, they will bounce back 100% from that and they'll actually learn, but it's when they don't feel connected to you that any type of correction
yes, and
is
it's
just
also
sandpaper.
100%. It's also totally irrational for an adult to think that a child logically knows these lessons that we are offended about. And so an example of that is, "You ungrateful little blah, blah, blah,"
Mhm.
or all the things you just mentioned. But the reality is children are learning. All of these experiences are new to them. How
Mhm.
on earth would my children ever have awareness of their state of privilege if they were
Well,
never supported to see it? How would
mm,
my children ever have awareness of what values in our family even are or look like if I don't take opportunities to teach them what our
mm.
values look like? So from that perspective, I mean, children are going to learn either that they're ungrateful, but what if they're not ungrateful? What if they're just oblivious?
Well,
And it's
they won't know one without experiencing the other, which is
no,
not something that
we
we're
live
gonna
in a
go out.
world of
Yeah.
duality.
Mm,
We need to learn what we want, but we equally need to know what we don't want. And this is what amazes me, because you spoke about the relationship thing and reading people's minds. The inspiration for this episode came about because of clients. It's just so relevant that we had kids. We were both going through things with our kids. But
mm,
I've had a lot of clients, this is most common with women who feel like they carry a lot of the load, who feel like the weight of the world is on their shoulders, and they will turn around and say, "I shouldn't have to tell him what I need. I shouldn't have to ask for help. I shouldn't have to tell the kids to put their bag away. I shouldn't have to blah, 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 blah." And my question to them is, why not? Why shouldn't you have to tell your partner the way that you like to be touched? Why shouldn't you have to tell your partner how you're feeling and what you need in that moment? You know, if
well, I mean, I'll throw out a couple of answers. The first answer would be that when you are taught that the best way to love someone is to predict what they need, then you're gonna want that back.
well, that's a
So
survival mechanism.
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Absolutely, absolutely. So if you are constantly sort of unsure of your surroundings and you had to constantly monitor, constantly check,
Yeah.
constantly have to predict what other people
Yep.
are doing,
Yep.
as a way to be able to put that down, you needed someone to do that for you. And, you know, again,
Well, partly
that
that, but also partly that's just what you learned about how we relate.
correct. And
This is what relationship means. We guess and we expect and we unconsciously demand and we set each other up for failure. We set each other up for all these little traps of
Mm.
where they disappoint us, they let us down, they didn't help us.
Yeah, well, and again, when I talk about all this, this is in a unhealed mindset or something that's sort of like it's happening in the background, but these things can be worked through. And so if you're sitting there going, well, I need that every day. Okay, well, it's coming from something that is unhealed that's looking to be healed.
Yeah.
But I think I said earlier on, it doesn't stop you from absolutely enjoying that sensation of someone without you saying anything, absolutely nailing
Mm.
what it is that you need and you didn't need to tell them. You'll never
Yeah.
feel so appreciated, loved, and
Yeah.
everything. And that comes from any state.
I
But
agree, but the oh, no, you go.
so when you think about why do people do this? Well, it's because they're looking to fill a void or they're looking to temper a trauma
Yeah,
ar-
absolutely.
around that kind of, generally people pleasing or generally those type of things.
And unconscious expectations. What I was gonna say is when we have these expectations on people and they let us down, how motivated are you to continue trying to please someone who seems to be completely ungrateful and unappreciative of your efforts? And the easiest example of this that I give to women, because as I said, this conversation 9 times out of 10 is with women
Hmm.
who are putting out massive unconscious expectations and demands and setting their partners often up for failure, is if you got dressed up and wore makeup every single day and all you wanted was your partner to go, "Wow, babe, you look amazing. You look
Mm,
awesome." The effort feels worth it, right? Because you're
mm,
getting validation out of that. It feels significant. It's giving you connection. But if you got dolled up and got dressed up and it was as if you didn't even exist, they didn't comment, they didn't look at you, they didn't notice. Maybe they did notice, but they just didn't respond in the way that you hoped they would respond.
hmm,
You're going to feel rejected. You're going to
mm,
feel like they don't love you, like you don't matter to them, like they don't care. Now, is that true? Not necessarily. In most cases, it's not. When I get the couples sitting down together, they'll often say, "I love her more than anything. She's just doesn't let me love her."
mm. Or like if you take the example about putting the makeup on, right? And what if your partner loves you without makeup and really appreciates it?
Making an assumption.
Yeah. And it comes down to the way different people perceive different things. And I think it's probably best said in relationships, and we'll talk about romantic relationships, in love languages.
Mm,
So the way that you receive, like your love language, how you want it is generally how you're going to give it.
yeah.
And so, if we had to quickly rattle off the five, I think it's physical touch, quality time, gift
Gifts, words of
giving,
affirmation,
words of affirmation,
and
and um, oh, what's the fifth one? Obviously,
quality
doesn't rank
time.
very high on us.
Quality time. Touch.
No, no, I said physical touch
Oh,
is number one.
so
Yeah,
touch, quality time, they're my 2.
yeah.
Gifts, affirmations, and oh my gosh, mental blank on the 5th.
Acts of
What's the 5th?
service.
Acts of service, yes.
Yep.
I've realized that I'm just all of them. I
Yes.
need all
Now,
the love. Give me all the love.
so for me, when I first read the book, it was 100% without a doubt. Physical touch number one was really important to me,
Yeah,
and then closely followed by quality time. And then as I've gone on, I've realized just like you, they're actually really important. And there was a
yeah,
time in my life I'm like, words of affirmation, who needs that? I mean, it's just all talk.
yeah,
Um, and but now I can definitely see that actually words of affirmation, even though I couldn't remember it the first time, is actually probably my third. But all of them are really important. But priority wise, number one, touch. Number two, quality time.
yeah,
Like everything else is. But now, if you're with someone, because for me, then how do I show love? It's going to be physical touch, and it's going to be a mental blank. That's awesome. Quality time. And so when you're with someone who has acts of service and words of affirmation really high, it's not going to feel as natural. So now you're starting to think, well, how are we going to possibly
Yeah.
be mind readers when we're naturally that way? And
Yes, and it's even more nuanced than that. Like, I will have couples who will say, "My love language is touch," let's say,
mm,
or one person will say, "My love language is touch," and I'll never forget this. There was a couple who, had been together for, like, 30 years, and they said the woman was like, "When I get really stressed and overwhelmed, I just need you to touch me." And I said, "Okay." I said to the husband, "Do you think you could do that?" And he goes, "Yeah." And I said, "Okay, well, show me." And he went like this and like patted her on the shoulder. And she's just turned and looked at him and was white. She was like, "Not like that." And so I said, "Okay, show him how and where he could touch you when you are feeling overwhelmed." And this
mm,
is where that ego can strike up that says, "We've been together 30 years. I shouldn't have to tell him how I like to be touched." Well, okay, how's that working for you? Because if he knew the way that you like to be touched, where you felt safe and felt loved and felt connected and held in that moment, you wouldn't be here.
mm,
And so she grabbed his hand and placed it on her leg and um, showed him exactly even how firm she wanted to be touched. Because there's sometimes when I'm really activated that soft touch is extremely triggering for me.
yeah,
And so if someone sort of just gently puts their hand on me or something, it elevates my activation.
mm,
And so my husband, I would say he knows, but he doesn't always know that I need it in that moment. So
gotcha.
I will say, "I really need you to hold me right now." And he will just like full body hug me really tight. And it's that
Mm,
firm touch that helps me to come back down. And so in that moment of I shouldn't have to, I encourage you. I not only encourage you, I implore you to get rid of that story. And if you actually have people in your life who are willing to learn how to relate with and to you better, not just in any given, like not just in general, but on the fly, in the moment, our needs change. And even
mm,
though our love languages are a starting point, touch for me changes. Sometimes the gentle touch feels good. Other times my body screams, "Don't bloody touch me." Other
yep,
so yeah, that's what I would be saying is really start to think about expressing. Do you know how
mm.
to first of all, do you know what you need? Second of all,
Beautiful. Yeah,
do
and I
you
think that's a massive one.
yeah.
Just
Yeah.
before you go on to the next bit, that's really important
Yeah.
because it's people will sit there and go, yeah, sure, I know exactly what I want, and I did some coaching with another lady, Mandy from Evoke Eros, and even just down to physical touch, right? We played a little game about giving and receiving, and I
Yes.
thought that'd be very very easy, right? Because I know how to give. I'd give you what I think you want, and actually, it was now down to no, you're going to give me exactly what I want because I'm receiving and you're giving,
Yeah.
and so okay, so then I have to ask what they want.
Mhm.
And the first time this happened, I was shocked at how I reacted because I was nervous. I'm going to stuff it up. Hang on. Why do you get to tell me what I'm giving to you because I'm giving? And it's sort of, and that,
Shouldn't that be your decision? But then you set
yeah,
yourself up for failure
but
because it's gonna miss the
yeah.
mark for them.
Or we've never been told that way. Like, beggars can't be choosers, or when you give something, you should be grateful, regardless of what it
Yeah.
is. And
Yep.
then on the receiving side of touch, I thought it'd be very easy. She says, okay, now you tell me, and it was just like from the wrist to your elbow.
Mhm.
tell me I'm going to be touching you from your wrist to your elbow. You need to tell me for like a minute. It's going to be like 60 seconds. Just tell me what you want me to do.
Yes. Yeah.
And boy, did I, my first reaction is, oh, whatever you want. And then it's all like, could you imagine, right? That you go, I don't know.
Yeah.
So maybe for those people listening, think about it. If you could sit down with your partner or, boyfriend, girlfriend, and then sort of in a non-erotic way, say, even include the hand,
Yeah.
hand to the elbow, and you direct them on exactly how you want to be touched. I don't know for other people, but I know for me, it shocked me because I did not know what I wanted.
It's amazing. That's something that I did with my kids since we were very young, though I did it from the perspective of supporting them and empowering them to set boundaries around their body.
Mm,
And, something that I would do is I would lay with them in our snuggle time because I think I've mentioned before we have snuggle time every night. That's our special one-on-one time. It's
nice.
sacred. We protect each one's one-on-one time at all costs. But one of the things I used to do is teach them language around how I liked to be touched and what felt like kind touch, what felt didn't feel good for me. And so I would model the language like, "I don't like that, please stop," or "A
Mm,
little harder, a little softer," or "Tickle me, scratch me harder," or whatever, And then I would do that to them, and I would, like, poke my son and tickle him, like, he really
mhm,
doesn't like being touched under the arm, but it also so he's on the spectrum, and this is one of the most powerful things that I ever did for him because what I realized, it helped me to understand his body more because I would touch him in the areas that I like to be touched.
yeah,
I love to be touched, like, I love when my kids put their hand over my heart and snuggled in. He really dislikes being touched on his chest and around his neck here.
got you.
That is very like, he gets squirmy and he was very, very, very triggered by that. And that's also part of the reason, haircuts were so hard because the clippers would have to go around the bottom of his neck, and that
Yeah,
just even being touched in that area was so activating for him. And so what we ended up doing over a period of time was just using language of, I would prefer you to put your hand here, or can you
mm,
just put like, how
mm.
powerful is that? And my daughter is phenomenal with it. She's a little scratcher and picker, so it's hilarious because she's like 7 and has amazing long fingernails, and she will this is like my favorite thing ever. I'll lay in bed and she will run her fingernails just gently over my back, and then I will say, "I want you to do it here, but can you please scratch harder?
Mm,
Or can you go there and can you do it gentle or use the back of your fingernails?" And so we
mm,
practice this and she will do the same thing to me. So if we're snuggling in bed, something that she has communicated she doesn't like is when I lay on my side and I put my arm over her tummy. She said the weight of my arm doesn't feel good for her over her tummy,
mhm,
but she doesn't mind it if it's over the tops of her legs, like kind of across her pelvis.
mhm,
And so just being able to know what feels good for you and what doesn't, or what even your preference is, and then being able to communicate that and have the other person respond in a willingness to meet your need is so powerful. So the
mm.
first thing is most people don't know what they need.
So
They've
that's
outsourced
huge.
they've
Yeah.
outsourced their needs being met to people who are guessing, and they're set up for failure because how can they meet someone's need when they don't even know what they need and they're guessing?
Well,
Of course
I
they're gonna get it
guess
wrong.
I guess, from our parents, it's, be grateful for when someone's doing something for you. If
Yeah.
someone's giving you affection, be grateful for it. I think
Yeah.
it's yes, we have outsourced it, but we've done it through a series of modeling, and that's how we've been taught,
Yeah.
as opposed to being sort of assertive and aware and almost conditioned to the point that if you correct someone's affection, you're rejecting their affection. where it's no, well,
Yes, and it's
I'm not.
offensive, and I
Yes.
remember when I was a kid, it was offensive and rude if I didn't hug a family member or someone who I should hug, or if it looked made my parents look bad or w
Mm.
like, that took away my body autonomy.
And
I
this is where if William goes, "My body, my rules," in situations like that, I'll go, "Okay."
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, but we need to have the space of, first of all, not of having that body awareness, and I come
Mhm.
back to this all the time. Body awareness is by far the most important skill that I teach every person that I work with, because if you don't have body awareness, you can't perceive what your need is to begin with.
Mm.
And if your body is communicating with you saying, "I feel a bit uncomfortable right now," and then you have the language to be able to put around that, that is a game-changing combo, because then you actually can know what you need, you can communicate that need, and you can uphold a boundary even if the other person doesn't like it, because their offense is not my responsibility. My responsibility is to know what I need, communicate it, and protect myself,
Mm.
or, at a minimum, honor myself, even if
Oh,
it's not
yeah.
protection, because that implies threat, but to honor myself and what I need. That's my responsibility. It's not, I can't
Mm.
outsource the responsibility on
Or
anyone else.
give them the opportunity to actually give you what you need. Now, if they are going to act in a way where they're offended, have some time for them to sort of say, "Look, I'm not rejecting what you're doing. I'm loving the effort that you're making, but what I need from you is this. Are you able to do this?"
Yeah.
And then go yes or no. And again, when we're learning these concepts from the start, there is going to be like a breaking in period where
100,
where
it's
we're trying,
awkward. You're
we're trying,
learning.
yeah, we're trying to unwind.
Yeah.
Because if someone, if I was first to be aware of this, and then I'm touching someone, they go, "Can you please stop doing that?" Like, oh, okay, I'm feeling highly rejected, and then suddenly I'm going to spark up, and
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
But
100%.
if they're saying, "Can you please stop doing that? I appreciate what you're, the affection you're showing me. Could you do it this way?" Then I'll be sort of like, I feel uneasy because hang on, you've rejected what I'm doing, and what I'm doing is what I feel that you need,
Yeah.
which is coming naturally from me. But if that's not what you need, oh, um, all the judgments come up.
Yeah, isn't it? And the
Like
I'm not good enough and the shame and everything around it. It's so
so,
big.
practicing it,
Yeah.
practicing it, and
And
just those
having
simple
a
things.
relationship where you are learning this together because you collectively have a commitment to have a healthy, conscious relationship. And that
Mm,
requires honesty, it requires transparency. And I recently had an amazing experience with my husband where I observed resentment in my body when I want our love language is quality time and touch. And I'd get to the end of
mm,
the day and I would want to lay down with him and snuggle him and chat with him and connect with him. And but I was looking around seeing everything that needed to be done. I was feeling overwhelmed and I needed this. And then I would feel
mm,
resentment towards him because he was chilling out. And all I wanted to do was to chill out with him, but it took me twice as long to do everything. And so it spiraled, right?
yeah,
And there was a previous version of me that would have been passive aggressive, that would have been almost a little bit narcissistic in the way that I approached it
mhm,
because I didn't know how to approach it any other way. And I didn't know what was coming up in my body. And so I communicated with him and I just said, "Hey, look, I want to talk to you about some stuff that has come into my awareness. I observe this resentment that comes up in my body, and I don't even know if it's fully mine because I remember as a child, my mum would talk about things about how she had to do it all and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff. So that's what I observed. And she was triggered by it. And I think I learned to be triggered by it because she was. And anyway, but also, I don't recall ever observing mum ask dad for help or dad blatantly saying
ah,
no or whatever. So I don't know, like I don't have huge memories around it, but I don't recall that. So the thing that came from that was we had this beautiful conversation, and I said, "I'm observing this is what's coming up for me. I'm not saying that there is a problem. I'm just saying this is my perception of the situation. And how do we ensure we can have that quality time that's important to both of us and everything still gets done?"
Mm.
And we talked about some things of what that might look like. Maybe it's we implement family team time there. Maybe it's I have a really strict cutoff time where no matter what's going on with work, it's cut off, and we have an allocated time where it's just committed to the house, if it's the bathrooms that need to be cleaned or whatever. But we started inviting solutions, and we were able to say, "How does that feel for you? If this is the way
Mm.
it was playing out, how does that feel now? Oh my gosh, I feel so supported. If this is how it played out, how does that feel for you? Yeah, I think that's actually manageable." And that to me represented such growth because it shows that I felt something. I was able to communicate what I felt. We collectively, as a team, were able to identify some solutions that might support a resolution that felt good for both of us.
Hmm.
But if old me, sat there and said, "I shouldn't have to ask for help. He's my husband. We're
Yeah.
meant to be a team. He should know what needs to be done."
Yeah. If he knows me, if
Yeah,
he if
I
he's
think
if he bothered to find out, if he,
yeah,
yeah.
and see, that is me perpetuating the same story, staying the
Mm.
victim, making sure that there's nothing that he can do that would ever be enough to make me happy because I'm the one co-creating the problem. I'm the one co-creating the problem by not communicating, by
Mm.
not inviting solution, by not honoring myself. So, you shouldn't have to, but it's stuffing your life up.
But you need to, right? I
Yeah,
shouldn't have to, but you need to,
yeah, yeah,
because it's all about shifting the the learnings, the teachings that have, there's so much of that which is changing
yeah,
in this lifetime, and for our kids, they'll be growing up in a very different way to how we grew up. But that cycle breaking, it's not easy, especially when you've gone from learning one thing to unlearning it.
yeah,
And but keep at it, everyone.
yeah.
It's a, it's a biggie, but it's worth it in the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And model it to your kids. Teach your
Mm.
kids this. Teach your kids how to know what they need, how to express their needs, and also honor their needs. You
Mm.
don't get to decide that they shouldn't need it. Don't
Yep.
judge their needs. Just be willing to meet them. And imagine how different your life would be if you had people in your corner who were willing to meet yours too.
Beautiful. Love it. Well said. Catch you next week.
See you, Dave.
Bye bye.
Bye.